We have him online. Let me say a special good evening to Chaguanas West MP Dinesh Rambally. Welcome, sir, and you're no stranger to the Observer. I know you had a long, hard day.
Yes, thank you so very much. I have to thank you particularly for the tremendous work, the phenomenal analysis that you continue to provide on contemporary issues on your program. I am so happy to be, part of the program this evening. So thank you very much. And to your audience, let me say good evening.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Starting off this morning in your constituency, if you can give us an insight of what's taking place. Again, I believe it's infrastructure, and that was the residents of Canupia.
Yes, correct. Mikee K, what happens is that I think at this point in time, the population, they have really crossed boiling point. And I observed this within my own constituency of Chaguanas West this morning. Very early this morning, I would have been contacted and told that, look, residents were demonstrating. And they didn't insist that I be there, but they wanted to notify me of same. And I attended. And when I went to Upper Warren Road, an extremely dilapidated road, and there's absolutely no drainage infrastructure in that part of the roadway. So I know how bad it is. And when I went there, you had several residents of that area, Warren Road, and environs. They were there. And what they were protesting, and I joined them in the protest as well, because I know their cause, I know the concerns they have, I know their plight. And they have basically said that for too long the roads have been left in a dilapidated state. The government is not properly resourcing the corporations. In this particular case, it is the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, and that the government is just, giving empty promises, false hopes, and they're not delivering. You remember recently in the local government elections, they were all about local government reform, but these things are just the taglines for the PNM. They don't really care about delivery of services to the people. And so when I went there, they mentioned you had people protesting in Upper Warren Road, but persons belonging to adjacent roads, they were also there with their placards with the names of the roads. And that is what really struck me, the dedication and the commitment of these people to highlight their plight. Warren Road, the connecting road to that is Ajoda Road, Bokal Road, Moore Trace, Alligator Trace and Alligator Trace environs. And you also have two perpendicular roads off Warren Road. One is Rambally Trace and one is Rambally Trace Extension. And when I spoke to all of these persons then and there in the demonstration, I didn't need convincing by fear. I really joined them, and I was happy to be part of that demonstration with them to send the signal that, look, every year we have been raising the problems we are having with these roads. We need assistance. People are spending too much money in the upkeep of their vehicles. They are having a lot of problems. Once rain falls, you don't even know where to drive your vehicle because the road is so bad.
And that's so true. And that's so true, yes. MP Rambally. And I have to ask the question, how much of this is geographical discrimination and how much of it is just outright incompetence?
I think what happens is that it is geographical discrimination. There's no two way about it. I am convinced that you have geographical discrimination.
Yeah, and not only for poor infrastructure, but you have things like water, and these things are just happening over time and time again. I'm certain that you are bombarded with many of your constituents saying, listen, I am paying this bill, but I am not even receiving pipe-borne water. How much of it is the mere fact that there are people who are saying, because you're living in a certain area and you're located there, we simply are not going to reach out to service you or to deliver any goods to you whatsoever?
Well, Mikey, let me tell you, right? I think a nice marker or some litmus test that we can carry out is, look, let's put aside the discrimination aspect for now. The fact of the matter is, you're right to ask how much of it is incompetence, and a lot of it is incompetence because what I know and what the entire country knows is that there are very few areas that are actually getting the delivery of services. So what that means is that even in the areas where they prefer to give the preference and they wish to deliver the services, their incompetence is not materializing in those areas as well. That is why the majority of the country has such bad roads. And this is something that I think is indicative of the fact that you're dealing with rank incompetence with these people. Now, I want to say that when we talk incompetence and discrimination, this is what it boils down to. In 2021, you said you were going to set up the secondary roads company, $200 million. Everybody is like, wow, why are you doing something like that? $200 million, why do you need to set up that? Why don't you just properly resource the local government corporation and properly resource the Ministry of Works and Transport for those roads that fall under them? They said, no, this is for rural roads. This is the secondary road. So this is something different. Okay, you went ahead and you did that. Then they came back in last year budget and they said, well, okay, we didn't spend any of that money. So you fooled the people in 1 year telling them $200 million is going to be spent on your roads. You came back last year and you said, no, we didn't spend it. So we're going to add that 200 we wanted to allocate to our next 200 and it's 400 million. And what are you going to tell the people in this budget now? And that is what I'm waiting to see. But whatever they come and they say, Mikee K, the fact is, you and I and the rest of the country knows the monies, whether it's allocated or however they come and they explain it, it has not trickled down to asphalt on the roadway. It has not materialized in that manner.
And I agree with you. And one would think that at the end of it all, the government would understand that this creates a domino effect. I mean, the mere fact that you have poor infrastructure, you have taxi drivers that are affected, delivery services that are affected, you have children who are affected that may not be able to go to school because the taxi drivers are going to raise their fare, and all of these things. You have farmers who would not be able to get to their crops because there are no access roads, and one would think that these things will be made a priority rather than played when it comes to politics. And this is something that we simply can't understand.
And added to that, we can't understand. It just goes to show the lack of empathy on the part of the government. Imagine persons within Chaguanas West, and I'm going to call out the roads. People can double check this. There's no grand charging or blocking.
Go ahead.
Residents of Rambally Trace and Rambally Trace Extension have been spending their own monies. They are putting up monies. They are doing a little charity work amongst themselves, raising funds. And those who can afford it to take monies out of their pocket, that is what they are doing. They have been purchasing their own material. They have been renting equipment and the appropriate drivers, the persons who will operate the equipment. And they have been fixing their own roads. So that is what you're seeing in Rambally Trace and Rambally Trace Extension. Imagine they are pulling material now because they have given up on the regional corporation. They have given up on the government. And well, I hope they haven't given up on me, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is what the reality is. We are not getting delivery of services, and we are clamoring in the parliament, out of the parliament. Every year in the Standing Finance Committee, we are asking why some of these areas cannot get prioritized in terms of the roads. And you just get this kind of lackadaisical, laissez-faire response from members of the government. And in addition to that, that is one area, Bokal Road. These are roads that most of the country knows, because even though they may not belong to Central Trinidad, they use these roads when coming from south to head to Piaco Airport. They want to go through the back roads to get to Kelly Village, to pass through the back there, and then, get to the airport. And vice versa. Those who leave Piaco, sometimes they don't want to take traffic, especially if it is they arrive on a flight in the morning. They don't want to go through heading into the Port of Spain direction traffic. They want to take the back roads and go. So these are roads that are known. Bokal Road is a prominent area, and it is the businesses there. One of the businesses in particular, NISA, that is the name of the company. NISA has been regularly paying their own from their own resources. They are paying and they are dropping material and they are paving the roads. I mean, Mikey, where we really reach in this country, people now have, after paying taxes for these things to be done, they now have to take out monies which they don't already have. They have to find it somehow at the risk of, not being able to fix their vehicles, at the risk of not buying things that their children may need to just have their roadways paved in a manner that they could traverse it. This is really, we in hell.
Yeah, I want to thank you for also going through with a fine-tooth comb the recent report from the Central Bank, which is July 20th, July 2023. an economic bulletin highlight. Many times these things come out and the public just doesn't seem to understand, and you have to break it down so everyone can get an idea. Now, a fiscal surplus of 88 million in the first 9 months of the current fiscal year, government receipt shows that it exceeds spending. Now it says, a deeper analysis reveals that this surplus may not signal a positive economic outlook. The report mentions an uptick in the economy, but the data does not support the claim. And I am not here to dispute numbers, because at the end of it, all numbers don't lie. But the reality that we face on a daily basis, that alone can tell you that there has been no uptick in the economy. Whatever money that people were saving is totally depleted. As a matter of fact, the middle class seemed to have been wiped off completely. Money that was put aside for tertiary education, for your children to attend college, whether it be locally, regionally, wherever, that money is not there. A 2-vehicle family is now a 1-vehicle family. And sometimes you only have one breadwinner. This is the facts. This is the reality. What was government, or what is this economic bulletin really trying to say to us as citizens?
So, Mikee, I want to say that whilst I may not be a financial analyst or an economist, I have made it my business to traditionally comment on what you see being put out by the central bank, what you have coming out from the Ministry of Finance, because I think at the end of the day, we owe our own constituents this kind of approach, right? We have to analyze it and tell them, look, I have concerns here. I think, and what I do is I ask the questions. What I think the central bank has done, whether deliberately or they have done it inadvertently, I cast no aspersions, but I want to make it clear. What I think they did with their last bulletin is they sanitized unfairly what is the proper state of the economy. So, for example, they would say that, okay, what we have seen is some form or level of energy revenue dominance. And you'd be like, wow, revenue dominance, it means we're getting more money. No. Right. And the fact of the matter is, they don't make the comparison and tell the people, or even use language to say, well, listen, the concern here, even though it may appear to be revenue dominance for a period of time, how is that to be weighed against the concern of decline in production? How do we look at that when we take you have market volatility? So you leave that now. When you talk about non-energy revenue conundrum, you remember we always talking about diversification. So when you're talking about issues now where you have to weigh one against the other, you can't tell the people there's expenditure growth, but you're not talking about how certain aspects of your budget or your fiscal policy is being funded. When you talk about rising government debt, you need to break down that for people. And I am saying, and this is what I said about this recent central bank bulletin, was that, look, you are purporting to say that you have a fiscal surplus, right, by way of your last publication. You are telling the population, and that is how you have framed it, that, look, we are treating with a situation of positive economic growth or positive economic outlook. And I am saying that, no, you have not analyzed it for the people, and you have not used language to make them have a healthy skepticism about what is taking place. Namely, looking at the heavy reliance on the energy revenue, looking at outside of the energy revenue stream, you're looking at the decline of non-energy revenue. You have not spoken about the increase in expenditure. You have not spoken about the mounting government debt. How do these different aspects interplay with each other that the population can hold its healthy skepticism and then of its own make a determination whether we are talking about a healthy
and you're correct. I mean, let's just look at some of these things here. Government expenditure increased by 5.2 billion, largely driven by transfers and subsidies. Also, $3 billion in VAT bonds that matured in May and July of 2023 had to be refinanced. An additional $3 billion in VAT bonds were issued to assist in settling outstanding VAT refunds. So this means that is a total of $6 billion in VAT bonds to be repaid. Now, the external debt increased by 100 million from September 2022 to $32.2 billion in June of this year. Non-energy receipts declined by 139 million. Again, non-energy receipts declined by 139 million. Energy companies converted less US dollars in the local market. The energy commodity price index declined by 37.4%. Trading on the stock exchange decreased from 1,007 million to 720 million.
Yes.
Foreign reserves declined by US 370.9 million compared to December 2022. And it goes on, and much of this seems to be the best kept secret. While government is still trying to save face by saying there's been an uptick as far as the economy is strong, the economy is moving, but that does not reflect on the daily lives of the citizens. Are we being sold a big lie?
To answer that question, Mike, let's take one aspect of it because, you know, it may become too unwieldy in this short conversation.
Yes.
To say overall that yes, they are telling a lie. Let's just use one aspect of what the recent central bank bulletin referred to. And when we look at it, okay, we take it that the population is more informed because of commentary. What you have, is it that you have a situation where the Minister of Finance is somehow manipulating or playing with the revenue, right? Because we know we are about to embark on the budget, and by not paying VAT refunds, you know, you spoke about VAT refunds and maturity of bonds and all of these things. Have they in fact paid the VAT refunds that they said they were going to pay? And why is this important? Because you see, VAT refunds, people must understand, they have to be deducted from the revenue. And if not paid, the revenue looks better, but the businesses are suffering. So to answer your question, whether a big lie is being told, let us take the VAT refunds, for example. You are saying that something that is to be deducted from revenue. You are not telling the people, and my information is that VAT refunds have not been paid, you know. So if they have not been paid for a particular period of time, it makes it look as though the revenue looks better. But really and truly on the ground, the businesses are suffering because they are not getting their VAT refunds. So you have people now, ordinary businesses, they have to battle with a situation where they are not getting the VAT refunds. And when they do get it eventually, you remember they would have had mountain debt, you know, somehow or the other, whether they take in things on credit cards, whatever it may be.
Especially with a stagnant economy, yes.
Yes. So with the battle to reduce the deficit by the end of the month, because remember we're going into a budget in early October most likely.
Right.
With this battle of the government to reduce the deficit by the end of this month, I think what you are looking at is you have a number of manipulation, treating or entailing not paying outstanding bills, which includes VAT refunds, so as to distort the true picture of the economy. That is what my inclination is. So with VAT, the questions are what is outstanding at current date, how much cash is allocated to pay VAT refunds for the quarter. Those simple things need to be put out by the Ministry of Finance, whether it's through the Minister of Finance or some other person, and the central bank needs to question these things rather than painting this broad brush economic surplus.
Yeah, and I think the citizens, most of all, need to be educated in the fact of the reality of what's taking place with our economy, and not just buy into these things. Because, I mean, you're saying to yourself that you're working for $10,000 a month, but yet still you're not talking about the deductions and statutory payments that you need to make. So you're just putting that aside and making it seem as though what you're getting there is a balloon wholesome of $10,000. It doesn't work that way. It just simply doesn't. And I think you don't have to be an economist to understand that this in itself is an economic con job. I know there's cricket going on. I want to thank you so much for taking time out. Before you go, tell us about your cricket program in your constituency, please.
Oh, Mikee K, I'm glad you asked that question. Very quickly, what I would say is that this year we had the second Chaguanas West in collaboration with Central Sports Cricket Club youth cricket camp. We had 7 successive Sundays whereby we would have had children from ages 4 to 5 go right up to 17 to 18. We had a girls team as well, if I may say, a girls grouping. And it was, to me, it was a tremendous success. Number one, because the children themselves said that they had a tremendous amount of joy and fun, right, in each camp. Every Sunday we had an average of 85 children. So we had about 115 registered. But on average, every Sunday we would have had about 85 plus children come in, right? The numbers fluctuated here and there, but 85 or more. And I take that as an indication of success because the parents who give you feedback, they were like so happy to bring their kids out. They have seen a difference in their children's motor coordination, their discipline, how they approach the cricket sport, the fact that they are off the screen, all of these things, because we would have started this camp last year, right, following the heat of the COVID pandemic. And this year would have been the second year. And I am happy because I think what it did was that it provided the ultimate avenue for social integration. A lot of camaraderie. The children are actually, bonding with each other, learning team spirit, it's a team sport. The coaches themselves have spoken about the children who started last year and came back to return this year. They have seen differences in the children's cricketing talent. And I'm particularly pleased to see that Central Sports, what happens is even though, we coordinate at this level for youth cricket camps, if you want to say during summertime, July, August vacation, Central Sports Cricket Club, my good friend Richard Ramkissoon, who is the manager, president of that club, has been doing a tremendous amount of work in ensuring that the children who so desire, who want to continue throughout the year, that they have the avenue through Central Sports to continue. And I think all of this bodes well because, on the level of cricket, what you are seeing is that, remember, we have to build cricket back from the basics if we intend to see national and West Indies cricket really rise back to the world. And I think this is where we have to go.
And I want to say hats off to you and your entire team for your camp. Keep it up and really and truly making that investment into the youth for a better, of course, future for many of them who are just natural born athletes. Thank you so much for taking time out, MP Rambally. All the best to you and your team, and we'll be checking in with you periodically.
Greatly appreciated, and I want to thank your audience for their time as well. Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you. You're welcome.